We're so blessed to have with us today representatives from all of the dioceses here in Minnesota. Particularly grateful to Bishop Louvour, the Bishop Emeritus of New Ulm, to Bishop Kettler, the Bishop of St. Cloud, to Monsignor James Bissonnette, the Diocesan Administrator in Duluth, and of course to our own Bishop Cousins, the auxiliary here, for their presence, as well as the priests of the cathedral. I'm humbled before them to have the opportunity to share a few words in this homily, and I'm very grateful to Jason Atkins for this opportunity to preach at Catholics at the Capitol. I kind of feel like the warm-up act for Archbishop Gomez. I'm sorry that circumstances didn't allow for all of you to be here with us in this cathedral this morning, poised as it is above our capital city, reminding us of the importance of bringing the Creator's loving plan for us, for our society, for our world, into every facet of our lives. As St. John Henry Newman reminds us, God has created each of us for a definite service. He has a plan for everything that He has created, including us. We give Him honor by discerning His will and pursuing it above everything else. That's what we hear from Peter and the apostles in our first reading this morning. We must obey God rather than men. What a powerful statement on their part. That's true for all of us, regardless of our position, from the seemingly weakest to the one wielding the most worldly power. Our responsibility in obedience to our Creator is to shape the earthly city, to reflect God's plan for a world in which we are truly sisters and brothers all, as reflected in Pope Francis's recent encyclical, Fratelli Tutti. Catholics are called to participate in promoting the common good, and as far as possible, to take an active part in public life. As we read in the Constitution Gaudium et Spes from the Second Vatican Council, that's particularly true for our Catholic laity. Here's the quote: "By fulfilling their civic duties, guided by a Christian conscience, in conformity with its values, the lay faithful exercise their proper task of infusing the temporal order with Christian values." Our task is to infuse the temporal order with love, with respect for the dignity of each human life, with a deep sense of solidarity and fraternity. Pope Francis has recently reminded us that recognizing that all people are our brothers and sisters and seeking forms of social friendship that include everyone is not merely utopian. It demands a decisive commitment to devising effective means to this end. Any effort along these lines, he says, becomes a noble exercise of charity. He observed that whereas individuals can help others in need, when they join together in initiating social processes of fraternity and justice for all, they enter the field of charity at its most vast, namely political charity. This entails working for a social and political order whose soul is social charity. No wonder the Holy Father speaks of politics as a lofty vocation and one of the highest forms of charity, inasmuch as it seeks the common good. All that we do and learn today as we reflect on how we might engage more deeply in the political process, how we might practically pursue the common good, has to be seen through the lens of love, the optic of charity. That is what makes it so fitting that our day begins here at the Eucharist, around the table of love, where we encounter love incarnate. In these weeks of the Easter season, we as a faith family recall the evidence that has been passed down to us concerning the resurrection. Just this past Sunday, for example, we heard the story of doubting Thomas, whom the Lord invites to explore his nail marks and side. Our risen Lord bears the marks of his crucifixion for all eternity. They are marks of injustice, of tragic societal discord, of hatred rather than charity. Not surprisingly, we as the body of Christ on earth continue to carry those wounds, wounds that remind us of the great needs of our brothers and sisters who with us make up the body of Christ, but also wounds that can remind us of the victory that can be won by sacrificial love, love that places the needs of our brothers and sisters first. In Fratelli Tutti, Pope Francis reminds us that the charity which has to be the spiritual heart of politics is always a preferential love shown to those in greatest need. It undergirds everything we do on their behalf. Only a gaze transformed by charity, he says, can enable the dignity of others to be recognized. The Holy Father says it is only then that the poor, the needy, can be truly acknowledged and valued in their dignity, respected in their identity and culture, and thus truly integrated into society. Our focus today at Catholics at the Capitol, not surprisingly, is going to be on helping those in need, of transforming society in a way that serves the common good by lovingly calling to the forefront the needs of those most vulnerable and holding up the dignity of each human life. How can we advocate for those most in need from the first moment of life at conception to natural death? How can we shape society to reflect our understanding of the respect that is owed to each human life, including our own? At a time when so many are so quick to divide us into camps based on our political affiliations or our race or our creed or our legal status, how do we infuse our society with the love that Jesus manifested in his death and resurrection for us, a love that calls us truly to be sisters and brothers all? Yesterday, in conjunction with Catholics at the Capitol, the bishops and administrators of the 6 dioceses of Minnesota had a wonderful opportunity to enter into dialogue with state leaders, our governor, lieutenant governor, and legislative leaders. We found some common ground for sure, but not surprisingly, some areas of conflict as well. Interestingly, given the challenges of the pandemic and the tensions that have drawn the attention of the world to what's going on in Minnesota, they all asked for prayers for our state and for those who serve her as leaders. That has to be music to the ears of those of us brothers and sisters who believe the words of our responsorial psalm today, who trust that the Lord is indeed close to the brokenhearted, to those who have been crushed in spirit, a Lord who hears the just and can rescue them from their distress. As men and women of faith, we can share our belief that the Lord can deliver us out of all of our troubles, the Lord who invites us to use our meager gifts to shape our society in accordance with God's plan. We come today to learn, to discern, to intercede, and indeed to praise a God who reveals himself in the challenges of our lives. May he bring to fruition the good work that he has begun in us.